Hello, hello, listeners. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are listening from. You're welcome to my Liberation Gospel. My name is Ukachukwu Okorie. Are my names, and I thank you for joining me today. And I implore my Father in heaven to grant us the wisdom, the understanding to inculcate, get in my message for it to yield fruits in the course of our life and for the greater glory of His name. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you for being with me. And I said I'm going to talk about comparative studies or analysis of the Fulani. I resurrected this liberation gospel in view of what is happening from the part of the world where I was born. And in talking about the Fulani, it's a very it's a wide topic, just like any other people studying any other people. But I'm going to, within the next hour, do a comparative analysis of their core characters, their way of life, their philosophy or world view. And in doing that, I think I will narrow it to the Fulani of the present-day Nigeria stock. Because when you talk about Fulani, there is people of more than 25 million. I can't say, but from various online sources, they have up to it's always a minority group in every country they find themselves, except in Guinea. But please, you can do justice by sharing this, because I said on many times, Facebook, this platform, I always explain this platform is the biggest online platform. That's why we are on it. Notwithstanding that we are on different other platforms, I use the other platforms as a person. I am not in that. I operate through my newspaper, but the newspaper is for everyone. But in this page, which is my page, Facebook has always restricted myself and Africa World on this their platform. Like I said, we are on social media, in as much as social media gives us the ample opportunity to tell our story. There are still efforts by those who operate that to stifle freedom of expression, especially when it doesn't tally with what they want. You always know freedom of expression from the age of man has always been a fight, and we'll keep pushing hard until something cracks. So in talking about the Fulani, I will narrow it down to the Nigerian Fulani, because you'll find the Fulanis in many countries. You'll find the Fulanis in Nigeria. Like I said, they are a majority in Guinea Republic, not Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, the majority there. They are in Senegal, they are in Mali, they are in Cameroon, they are in Niger, they are in Burkina Faso, they are in Mauritania, they are in Ghana, they are in Benin, they are in Guinea-Bissau, they are in Gambia, they are in Ivory Coast, they are in Chad, they are in Central African Republic, they are in Sierra Leone, they are in Sudan, and they are in Togo. But it is important to inform you that the most flourishing Fulanis are in Nigeria. A Fulani is called a Pulo. Their language is Fulfulde. There's something special about the Nigerian Fulani. We will come to that as we navigate or weave through this thesis in the next hour. There's something special about the Nigerian Fulanis in the sense that you can't talk about the Fulanis and their rise within the West African sub-region without the man Osman Danfodio. But before then, their populations, if you talk about population, the Nigerian Fulanis claim to be more than 15 million. But I think it's a lie. It is not true. But I will leave it at that. The Guinea Fulani, where you have the main concentration of the Fulanis, and in which area the Nigerian Fulanis emigrated from. They migrated from the Futajalon. Futajalon is in Guinea today. That's where they left to today's northern part of Nigeria. In Guinea, there are over 5 million. In Senegal, there are over 3 million. In Mali, over 2 million. In Cameroon, over 2 million. In Niger, over 2 million. In Burkina Faso, over 1 million. 1.9 million, about 2 million. In Mauritania, about 920,000. In Ghana, 800,000. Benin Republic, 750,000. In Guinea-Bissau, 410,000. In Gambia, 420,000. In Ivory Coast, about 480,000. In Chad, 352,000.5. In Central African Republic, 287,000.1. In Sierra Leone, 266,000.5. In Sudan, about 212,000. In Togo, 111,000. And I bet the Nigerian Fulani that emigrated out of Guinea claim to be the highest. We'll come to that. And many of you do understand why they will always claim up to that population. But I always say that it is not right. But you wouldn't have to blame them in the sense that they are the ruling class in northern Nigeria. And the Fulanis are of different class. We have they are majorly pastoralists. You know, you can't talk about the Fulani without the cattle. They are pastoralists. The cattle is like their religion until Islam. They embraced Islam. Even after embracing Islam, cattle, you can't talk about the Fulani without talking about their cattle. They worship their cattle. It's their mainstay in everything they do. Their main food, staple food, come out of cattle milk. Many of you do enjoy the fura de nunu and kunu. You know, all came out from there. And even in modern times, yogurt can be taken out from such things. But we have two major kinds of Fulani, the pastoralists and what we now call the aristocratic Fulani or the town Fulani. Most of them are the pastoralist Fulani, because the town Fulani are those who have come to settle. Because as nomadic as they are, they've always waged conflict in order to find new grazing ground. Or this life we are witnessing in our part of the world, in which they graze their cattle and rear their ugly heads since their brother became the president of Nigeria. It's been happening, though it's curtailed in places that they don't have the powers, but they've always gotten into conflict with farmers and owners of the land. But like I said, when they started winning battles, their jihad, starting from Ottoman and Fodio, some of them, a minority class of them, started settling. But still, that nomadic culture has always been there with them. For want of time, I wouldn't want to go into their arts and culture and think it will take us time. I'm more interested in their political behavior and way of life. From the 11th century, they got into contact with Islam. And there's something about the Fulani in West Africa. If you analyze well or research, in Africa, West Africa, apart from North Africa, West Africa are where you get the most Muslims in Africa, apart from North Africa, because North Africa, Prophet Muhammad, and so they are all Arabs. So when you talk about the sub-Saharan Africa, where the bulk of the Muslims are found, they are in West Africa, and the Fulanese, they see themselves as the purveyors of Islam, those who were born to bear what they call the sword of truth. What they call the sword of truth. That many do not know the history of the spread of Islam around the world. And there was a time I talked about Constantinople. If you listen to my talk I talked about Constantinople and Biafra. And I talked about the Turks, the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire that ended with the First World War were the ones that spread Islam across the world. At the time, Ottoman Empire controlled parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia. It was a sprawling empire, and they spread Islam from there. All these countries you see today in Middle East and in the Balkans, like all this Kosovo, Serbia, all those former Yugoslavia, they were under the Ottoman Empire. Then you talk about Africa, North Africa. And during that reign of Ottoman Empire, they helped a lot to spread Islam. And that was where when a preacher emerged in the city of Gober. City of Gober. Today, that city is called Sokoto. But it used to be known as Gober. It's a Hausa city. And until recently, many Nigerians started knowing, getting informed that there's a big difference between the Hausa and the Fulani. The Hausa and the Fulani are not the same. If you travel to other parts of Africa, then you will understand. There are Hausas in Ghana. They are different from the Fulani. There are Hausas in many other. Hausa is a very big tribe in sub-Saharan Africa. But there's something remarkable about the Nigerian Fulani, like I said. When a preacher, a zealot, emerged, Osman Dan Fodio, his parents migrated into Gober. Like I said, they're nomadic people, just like what we're seeing in today's Nigeria. You know, they migrate and settle. From settling, they will find a way to conquer the land and spread Islam. They see themselves as the purveyors of Islam, the men holders of the sword of truth. They believe that they were born to spread Islam. That's why if you in the northern part of Nigeria, we have Muslims, we have Yorubas as Muslims, but when the Fulani doesn't consider the Yorubas as pure Muslims, where there are Fulanis, they wouldn't let a Yoruba cleric lead prayers. They will always lead prayers. They feel superior, and that's why you see in Nigeria, the Fulani are the Serikin Musulman. They are the head of Islam. The Sultan of Sokoto, who is a direct descendant of Osman Dan Fodio, is the head of Islam in Nigeria. If you check that, you will see. So they've always seen themselves as the men leaders of Islam, and that has helped them to intimidate or push through their policies using religion against those who are adherents of that faith. Show Usman Dan Fodio, maybe a household name, but there are people who doesn't know him. He led the Fulani or Sokoto Jihad of 1804 and established a caliphate, what later became the Sokoto Caliphate, because he was born in Gobe, like I said, in the 18th century. His parents migrated into that part of northern Nigeria, today's Sokoto, and he was born on December 15th, 1754, in a village in today's Sokoto, or formerly Gobe, called Marata, and he grew up there and became a good speaker, a preacher, a reformer, a scholar. I mean, studying Islam. Then Islam was moving on. Like I said, it was during the time of the Ottoman Empire. They were spreading Islam around the world. And many of these religions, you know, they start up by preaching on the ethics of life, criticizing the life of the rulers at that time, especially when there's rulers are doing badly or corrupt. They will always go against the status quo and gain following. That was what Osman Dan Fodio did. In his youthful stage, he devoted his time to Islamic religious education and started preaching and teaching and equally writing. He was a poet and a writer, and started preaching around, you know, evangelizing, criticizing, because during that time, the Hausa rulers, we call them in history the Habe rulers, they were very corrupt, always imposing taxes on the people. And the Fulani settlers, they were into this cattle rearing. They were the Habe rulers imposed arbitrary taxes on people to raise money, imposing cattle taxes, and people weren't happy about the corruption that were the order of the day and unnecessary taxation of the people. So he gained following, not only among his fellow Fulanis, but the Hausas, the owners of the land. And from there, he began to mobilize on how to change the status quo. Like I said, he believed that he had the sword of truth to bring Islam. And Islam, he preached about he preached from the purific aspect of Islam. criticizing corruption and the bad ways of life in which the Habe rulers were involved at that time, and how they were dealing with their people. So you can imagine his followership sprang up, and at the time he became a threat to the rulers, and he went to exile. He went to exile. Many of his followers followed him. You know, in those days, if you are moving, it's not like today. you will have to travel, use your visa, and then the population hadn't gotten much, so there was still expanse of land. You can easily flee to thousands of kilometers and meet empty land and settle there and start building your state. If you remember what the likes of King Jaja of Opobo, who established a new settlement at Opobo, which is a sprawling city today, you will understand what I'm talking about. So, but although Gobert was an established city then, so he fled and went and organized himself more with his followers, and many followed him. It was from there he later launched an attack against the Habe rulers. In 1804, around that period, the military commander of Gobert decided to deal a decisive blow against this renegade called Osman Danfodio, as they tagged him then, because he was becoming a threat to the Gobert leaders. And mind you, there were still other Hausa states there. There were Zaria, Katsina, Kano, and there were different Hausa states, always bickering among themselves. They were not united. But in that 1804, in the 19th century, Yumfa, the military leader of Gobert, challenged Osman Danfodio because a new battle ensued when they wanted to collect a new form of tax they imposed on cattle, and they pursued Osman Danfodio to his base. From there, during the battle, Osman Danfodio emerged victorious and killed Yumfa. They called him Yumfa Dan Nafata. So he was killed. It was that decisive battle against the leader of Gobert now gingered him with his followers, and he began his campaign. Before then, he had preached purific Islam, talked about the jihad, the ways of life of a real Muslims, and you understand what I mean. He convinced his followers, not only Fulanis who emigrated from Guinea and those who were born in Gobert, because there were few, but the indigenes of the land, the Hausas. He convinced them to go against their rulers using Islam. And they killed Yumfa, and he became the new leader of Gobert. From there, he began his jihad. He waged a serious jihad. In Islam, you talk about religious war as jihad. He began his jihad because there's one thing about Islam, and if you look at many Muslims today, and that has made Islam spread you see, if you have a Muslim friend, you discover that aspect. Islam, the religion, and the way of life are intertwined, is interwoven. They see Islam and the cultural aspect of their life are intertwined. So, and that is why it's very difficult for many Muslims to leave the religion, because they see it as a way of life. And that's why you see somebody can just go and be a suicide bomber. Somebody can just be easily brainwashed. Somebody can do a lot of things in the name of religion, because the religion is a way of life. And that was what made the religion spread easily. And you now see diehards and fundamentalists. They are ready to be put to the sword because of their religion. And if you see aspects of the Quran, it will tell you that the Prophet Muhammad preached that the religion must be protected, unlike Christians who believe that their God will protect them. In Islam, they believe that they have to protect the religion, that the religion is in jeopardy, that the infidel must be put to sword. It's difficult to see a major preaching in the Bible where preachers are always talking about shedding of the blood, the infidel, killing infidel. There may be one or two, but it is not all that strongly preached as in Quran. And that has made Islam a very fearful religion. You see just a little cartoon of Prophet Muhammad or any Islamic figurehead, there will be chaos anywhere. They will start burning cities. They will start killing or beheading. And it's been brutal. And you will even wonder, Muslims, it will be difficult for Muslims to come out openly and condemn that. You see that? They will tell you, behind, but they will not come out openly and condemn and say, this is bad, because aspects of the religion, of their holy book, talks about it. And with that, Danfodio spread his jihad. And that jihad spread across Hausa land today. And you will see that the impact in Cameroon, in Chad, in Niger, and in Nigeria. You see all the neighboring. You go to the core northern Nigeria. I did my youth service in Sokoto, so I watched with interest, the life there, the borders. There's no border there. The same people that you see in Nigeria are in Niger, in Chad, all the neighboring countries, in Cameroon. The way we have Adamawa state in Nigeria, we have Adamawa in Cameroon. And if you remember, during the elections, the former vice president of Nigeria, Abubakar Atiku, or the flag bearer of PDP in this election, the Fulani man too. And he was, his case was dismissed in the court, so that he's not a Nigerian. APC, the ruling party, even accused him that he's not Nigerian, because he has his brothers in Cameroon. And you see, that jihad, the jihad controlled the Hausas, and then they extended the jihad from that 1804 at the heat of the battle, in which Yonfa the leader of Gobe was killed, the battle continued until even 1811, when officially, around that time, the Sokoto Caliphate was proclaimed. Gobe, that main city-state, is the center of the Hausa civilization. Hausa city-states was changed to Sokoto. Even Osman Danfodio, that's why you see they always celebrate him. He's their progenitor. He's the founder of the Sokoto Caliphate. And the Sokoto Caliphate now spoiled many Muslims, particularly the Fulanis, to migrate to other places, to settle, to wage battle. They were fiercely resisted in many places they find themselves, in which they try to take over. Even today, you still see Fulanis, they always try to cause problem, or to take to seize the political center in order to decide who gets what, how and when, wherever they find themselves. You will see that in Central African Republic, the current conflict in the Central African Republic, they were part of that. In Mali, the president is Fulani. Unfortunately, they are in the minority. In Ghana today, the vice president is Fulani. But all this, you still see Fulanis in key positions. The president of Gambia, Adama Barrow, is Fulani. If you remember, when the issue of Gambia rose up, Nigeria wanted to send its military. And remember, Senegal was involved. Senegal already sent advanced military into that to make sure that this guy left and that their brother, Adama Barrow, is installed. And today, Adama Barrow is the president of Gambia. But what is happening in that country, you see, you need to ask Gambians how they view the state of the country. I will come to that. The state of the country since Adama Barrow. If you remember the hoopla, the issues that brought about the rise of Adama Barrow, who came from London back home and won the elections surprisingly, and removing this dictator, the one that just was involved in Q, who he did a lot, despite the fact, but the West didn't want him because he was against the West. But now, if you compare and contrast his time with the current Adama Barrow, you will see that Gambians are already crying. There are also Fulanis who are the good positions. The vice president of Sierra Leone, the prime minister of even Mali, Bobo Sise, but among all of them, the Nigerian Fulanis have flourished more. They flourished more. They've done a lot for their brothers, and in that their nomadic nature, they've always wanted to find a home for the larger Fulani population. But unfortunately, they have issue with civilizations. I mean, because the Nigerian Fulanis would have done a good job. If they had done a good job, Nigeria would have been the pride of Africa, irrespective of the fact that Nigeria pride itself as the giant of Africa. But everyone knows that Nigeria is a disappointment to Africa because in the current full-blown Fulani authority now under Buhari, They've squandered the goodwill of the country, keep borrowing every day. And since after the end of the Nigerian Civil War, they took charge of the levers of authority in Nigeria. And ever since then, from 1970 until today, you should assess the state of the Nigerian country. It's up to you to know how Nigeria fared. And as such, Usman Dan Fodio paved the way for the Fulanis in Nigeria. Like I said, from 1804 until 1811, when he retired, he battled and took control of all those Hausa city-states. Like he started from Gobe, where he was born, which he renamed Sokoto. He took Kano. Kano fell to. He took Zaria. He took Katsina and, conquered the Hausas and other tribes. There were neighbors, and imposed Islam. Later, that we've now discovered, he now made a taxi town after killing all the Habe rulers and their families and their descendants, wiping them in a very brutal manner, making sure that there will be none of them to rise again to lay hand or lay claim to the throne. Kill all of them and took over. He appointed his son to be in charge of Gobe, Sokoto, and appointed his brother to be in charge of the western part of the caliphate. And from then, they continued fighting until 1815. And from there, he established a theocratic state. What in political terms they call a theocratic state. Like I explained before, theocracy is a system of government, like you find in Iran, a government in which religious leaders are at the helm of affairs. It's called theocracy. We have a presidential system, parliamentary system, theocratic system. So, and the Fulani have always, with their way of life and philosophy as the leaders and the torch bearers or bearers of the sword of truth in Islam in West Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa, they created a theocratic Sokoto Caliphate. And Osman Dan Fodio appointed his son, Mohammed Bello, to be in charge of all the Hausa states he conquered, with headquarters in Gobia, which they renamed Sokoto, while appointing his brother, Abdullahi, to be in charge of the western aspect. And what they do, wherever they conquer, they started renaming, forming towns, naming emirs, his commanders, his loyalists, giving them emirs. Just like in Nigeria, you see, the term emir is it's not a Nigerian, it's not an indigenous term. It was created by the Fulanis. Hausas had kings, and actually, Hausas, they had a very big civilization, but unfortunately, they were deceived into being used against their rulers. And after being used, it was too late for them. They were Islamized and their culture. Although the Nigerian Fulanis were smart, they dropped their Fulfulde, their original language, and picked up the Hausa language, lost part of their culture, and picked up the Hausa culture. But they now held the Hausas in their jugular with religion. And that was what I told you. That was why Islam flourished. That was why Islam flourished. That was what Prophet Muhammad taught. And the first people that practiced that was the Turks, the Turkish people, the Ottoman Turks. If you look at Turkey now, Turkey is a big population. But actually, Turks are few in number, the original Turks. But when they conquered, they were very brutal. I talked about the conquest of Constantinople, today's Istanbul, just like exactly, just like Sokoto you are seeing today. Sokoto was formerly Gobe. When Osman Danfodio conquered Gobe, he renamed it Sokoto. Like when the Ottoman Empire, the young Turk, the young king, in establishing Islam or spreading Islam, the Turks seized the political capital of Christianity, which was in Constantinople, to send the message around the whole world that they have arrived. And when they seized that Constantinople, up to today, Europeans have not recovered from this seizure of Constantinople, because and that, if you check very well, Christianity, Catholic, let's call it Catholicism. Forget about Protestantism. Protestantism just started the other day with Martin Luther, a priest who criticized what bad things that were happening in the Catholic Church. The main division, there was a big division in Christendom that divided Christianity before. And one aspect of Christianity had its headquarters in Constantinople. It used to be the center of the Byzantine Empire, whereas the other one was in Rome. Because when Constantine made Christianity the compulsory religion for his subjects after he became emperor, after he became Caesar, he built a new headquarters in Constantinople, and the Turkish later took it. Let me not digress. That was what Osman Danfodio did. And mind you, you need to understand that during that period, it was at the height of the Ottoman Empire. So they were helping jihadists, renowned jihadists, with muskets, bayonets, arms, to spread jihad, to spread Islamic religion. And for want of time, I wouldn't want to go into deep things, because before Osman Danfodio conquered the Hausas, already there were sprawling empires. The Hausas had big time civilization, city-states, kingdoms were in parts of today's Nigeria. They were even the Oyo Empire. It was a very big empire, Oyo. That's even sprawled up to the Dahomey, today's Benin. You see, there are still Yorubas in Benin Republic or Togo. Because in those days, for you to rise, you have to wage war. And that's same character. The Fulanis are still doing that even in this modern age, because they are nomadic. They always want to find a flourishing settlement in which they will be in charge. And Osman Danfodio did that and renamed Gobea to Sokoto and took charge. And it continued. His descendants continued. And he tongue-coated, changed. And now the Hausas who worked with him now became their vassals, became their servants. And you know, Arabic is the language of Islam. They adopted it. He spread it around his caliphate and gingered other holy wars around that area. Even there was Kanem Bono Empire. There was an empire in Bono that even were Muslims before the arrival of the Fulanis in the Hausa states. And Osman Danfodio tried to take it. But the king of the Bono then appealed to Islamic leaders during the Ottoman era to say, if actually Osman Danfodio said he's waging a battle against infidels, why does he want to take over my kingdom, knowing fully well that I am a Muslim myself and my subjects are of Islam? That was how they left Bono. Because actually, the Fulanis have always used religion as a cover-up, but their interest has always been a political interest. To annex people's land and find a settlement. Find a settlement for themselves. And that is what they found in Nigeria. Although when the British came to colonize, they've already lasted about 100 years in domination of the Hausas. Although they were stopped by many other tribes. If you look at the Middle Belt, you see the killings have continued today because Osman Danfodio and his people did not finish that war, because the thieves and other tribes still resisted their jihadist expansion. And the British came. When the British came, Lugard, a young colonel, a Scottish colonel, was sent to that part of. And when the British were trying to mop up countries after the Berlin Conference, they shared African territories among themselves, European powers. So the British laid claim to the territories around the Niger area, and this part of the Niger. So they now started, for them to take full control of the northern part of the Niger, they had to battle the Fulani. And already the Fulani had reigned there over 100 years, established themselves, formed many emirs. All those Hausa city-states, they've taken over. And they've, Islam, new generations has emerged. They are all Muslims. They were of Islamic culture. So you see, Hausas now became their soldiers. They now use Islam to hold them. To hold them in bondage. We call it bondage, but those in the religion wouldn't see it like that. They just see it as doing the will of Allah. That's why Karl Marx will always say that religion is the opium of the masses. And there was a battle ensued for the British to take over. Lugard decided that they're going to wage a war because they weren't letting go. The Fulanis, they resisted the British taking charge. And you know the British, they adopted the divide and rule tactics. And they came in with superior weapons. During that period, they had a sprawling empire. They had superior arms, the Maxim guns. We came out then. It was a new age of discovery. So the European discovery gave advantage to them. And that was why they came to this part of the world and they conquered. Because it was in the Europeans, they fought bitter wars before they now let the age of Renaissance and Reformation, allowed to flow through their culture and their place. And that age of Renaissance and Reformation bring up new learning, created enabling environments, and necessitated scientific discovery. And they came to Africa, started importing slaves that will work for them to produce for them in large quantities to oil their industrial machines. And they used slaves to even wage battles. And they did it in North. They came to Africa, used Africans to conquer Africa. So you can imagine. And that's why you see, it look as if, not it look as if, they see us, that's why up to tomorrow, they will always see us as stupid, as fools, because they came to Africa, used us to conquer ourselves. And it happened in the northern part of Nigeria. First, they had to take on the Sultan of Sokoto, the new Sokoto. They have to. They first put up their center, their headquarters in Lokoja. If you are from Nigeria, you see Nigeria, the Lokoja prides itself as the confluence state, the state of confluence. Is a center, is a central place in Nigeria, and there's that's where the Nigerian, the first headquarters of Nigeria, northern headquarters. That was where Lugard office was, in Lokoja. So from there, it was central. He now battled northern Nigeria to conquer the theocratic Sokoto Caliphate, in which the Fulani were at the helm of affairs. So the Fulani mobilized their subjects, who are Hausas and others that were under them, in the form of jihadic way. Because with jihad, when they proclaim jihad, you see innocent people giving up their lives in feeling that they are fighting for the cause of Allah. It calls for martyrdom. And that was what they did. If you read accounts, English, Oyibo people, they always keep documents. They wrote books. Many of the officers that were involved in the battles, they wrote books to keep account. They kept diaries, writing about what they saw, then even pictures too. And they battled the Sultan of Sokoto then, who was Atahiru. because he refused to give up. They battled him. First of all, they adopted their divide and rule tactics by appointing his brother. They appointed his brother in order to divide the kingdom. The British appointed his brother, and during the battle, they killed Atahiru of Sokoto. Actually, he was beheaded, and the pictures, even from accounts I read, the pictures of his head were all in British newspapers during that period too. And they massacred a lot of them who wanted to die in order to defend Islam or to fight against infidels. And that was how Sokoto fell. From then, they went to Kano and fought in Kano too, and defeated the emir of Kano. Even took him to exile in Lokoja. He was there for like 20 years and died in 1926. By then, it was after mopping up northern Nigeria, and they pronounced a protectorate later, because of the fact that they were spending a lot in the north. They saw that the south was rich. They now amalgamated the north and south so that the riches of the south would be used to administer the north. But there's one thing they did. They saw that the Fulanis operated a bit of their style, fiefdom, despite the fact that the British system wasn't a theocratic state, but they had similarities in the sense that the king's vassals, and they were interested more in who will be loyal to them, who will collect taxes, and make sure that they have a foothold on their new creation, which is Nigeria. But there's one thing I want to point about the Fulani character. Religion is very important to them. They see themselves as the ultimate leader of Islam, and that Islam must be spread in sub-Saharan Africa. But under the cover of Islam, they always have the political intentions, the political motive of being in charge, of finding a new ground, of having a state of their own. They are very ambitious. You will not say they are not ambitious. They are very ambitious, and they find their ambitions under the umbrella of Islam, because Islam brings the people together, and Islam energizes its adherents to even make the ultimate sacrifice in order to reap the fruits of faithfulness to the Prophet Muhammad. Made sure that the religion spread, and the Ottoman Turks did that, spreading it, and the Fulanis tried to copy it, though they are not as sophisticated as the Turks, because if they were as sophisticated as Turks, they would have done a lot of things. Let us face realities. At the end, they deceived the Hausas, gained ground, took hold of the Hausa city-states, used the Hausa city-states to negotiate with the British. After even fighting and losing to the British saw them as a willing tool to lead their new Nigeria. Despite the the education of Azikiwe and Awolowo, they still favored the Amadou Bellos and the Tafawa Balewas, the Fulanis, who are in charge of northern Nigeria. Look at, the British left the Fulanis and their privileges intact. They left their privileges intact. They understood fully well that in the power equation in the north, that there are the led and there's a leader. The British understood that very well, and they didn't want to tamper with that. If you read accounts on their operational tactics, the British didn't want to tamper with their privileges. They saw them as a group of people who can always play their kind of cards. As in, they have vassals, they have their servants, the houses. They are the leaders. And as such, what the British Empire or the agents of Her Britannic Majesty was interested in is their own share. Because ab initio, the formation of Nigeria was on a commercial front. Nigeria is a commercial, is a company. If you look at in the south, if you look at what happened in the south, the Royal Niger Company that was started by Tubman Goldie, it was business. They came to explore the riches and the resources in the hinterland after this slavery ended. So when the slavery ended, they now saw, okay, new opportunities, because this life is all about commerce. That's why you see the Igbos or Igboid people have always prospered because they are into commerce. As long as you are into commerce, you will always prosper. The only thing is, when you don't combine that your commercial tendencies with political interests and political aspirations, then you can never go far. You will always be having roadblocks. You'll be having dislocations. So, and that's why the Igbos always have political dislocations, because the Igbos are more interested in economics, in commercial. That was what, if you check historically, the arrows, the Ukachukwu, I don't want to digress, but I can go, just borrow a leaf from that. The arrows had an oligarchy during the slave time. I mean, the Binob, the long juju of Ukachukwu. It was maybe one day I'm going to talk about that. The arrow prospered, and if you go across today's or old Eastern Nigeria, what we call in Nigeria now South and the Southeast, even extending to Benue, you will see many of them are arrows. But because of cultural changes and new ways of life, many have lost languages, but you can still trace it. The arrows, they prospered in slavery. Today, you see the biggest arrow settlement in Arondi Zog. You see arrows in almost every prosperous town, especially towns that had close proximity to the ocean, because then transportation was from the sea. So you see in the creeks, I was doing research. Some of these nations we see on the coast, Jaws, Efik, they are all Igbos. But along the line, these nations metamorphose Just like, okay, look at Jaja of Opobo. I always use that. Jaja of Opobo just happened recently. It was in 18 something. He was a slave. Jaja founded Opobo. Jaja freed himself. Many slaves, because the bulk of the slaves were from the Igbo territories. And one thing about the Igbos then, they didn't have this kind of kingship and not kings and not. They have numerous thousands of settlements, towns, what you see there. But and each of these towns, they still traded among themselves. They fared better. They had laws and order. They had their way of life. But along the line, there are changes. Some, depending on what happened, migrated or emigrated out of their towns to find new towns. When the opportunities came for slavery, it was the most lucrative business. Many came and founded new settlements on the coast. Some had to fight it out. Some adopted new languages and things like that. But because of certain interests, a lot of things has changed. So let me not digress into that. And the British, when they came, the mopped up, conquered the Fulanis and saw that the Fulani had aspect of what they want. Collect our taxes. Well, okay. They made sure that the Fulani, okay, we are going to work with these people. Look at, they juxtaposed what was happening in the southern part of the Niger. They studied all this tribe, the major power blocks in what will become of Nigeria. The major power blocks were the Fulanis already. That one is settled in the north. They were in charge. They were the leaders. They were feared. They've already reigned for 100 years before the British came and defeated them and killed Atahiru, putting his brother Atahiru, planted Lugard, removed Atahiru, beheaded Atahiru, and installed his brother as the new Sultan, changed the emir of Kano, installed new emirs. They had the magazine guns. They had, despite the fact that the Fulanis were strong then, they've been in charge, they've subjugated their vassals and slaves, and their slaves fought for them and died for them. They were happy to die for their masters. This was the way of life then. They showed them the might, what they can do. The British, they had the stronger guns, and they made sure that they defeated, put who they want. They did it in many other places, even in the southern part of today's Nigeria. They used divide and rule. But when Nigeria was finally amalgamated, they left the privileges of the Fulanis intact. And that's why you see today, the Fulanis were smart enough, and they'll call themselves Hausa Fulani, Hausa Fulani, Hausa Fulani, and they made sure that history is not taught. They made sure that the British has always been their advisors, because they learned the British and decided to fall down for the British, knowing fully well that if they don't play their card very well, there were still elements in the Hausa population that have always yearned for the vote. If you know about the First Republic or Second Republic, you will know about Aminu Kano. Aminu Kano, the Talakawas, the peasants because the Fulanis are minority. They are few, very few. So what they try to do, that they have this deceptive tactics. It's part of their tactics, and it's something that is in Quran. It's an Islamic tactic, you know, to deceive the infidel. And they use that against the Hausas. Deceptive character. Using the Hausas to conquer their leaders, now turning back and imposing Islam on everyone. And Usman Dan Fodio planting his son as the Sultan of the new Gobe, which is Sokoto, putting Muhammad Bello and his brother Abdullahi and his commanders, made them emirs in their new state. They keep moving. They keep moving. The later descendants they kept expanding, encroaching, and the British gave them. Even before the British came, they entered into the Yorubas, the Landerines. They took advantage of the Yoruba wars, the fall of the Oyo Empire. When Oyo Empire fell, it provided opportunity for scavengers, hawks, to come and pick to pieces. And the area on Akakamfo, the military commander of the Oyo Empire, now betrayed his Oba after founding a Lorraine, and the Fulani came and deceived him and took a Lorraine. You see, they now put in their foot. The letter killed the military commander of the great Oyo Empire then, who was stationed at the border, because Usman Dan Fodio and his jihadists were on rampage. And the Oyo Empire was a very strong empire then. They now stationed the Areonaka Kamfo, the military leader of the Oyo Empire, which was a very big empire that stretched up to Dahomey, Benin Republic today. But he, reaching there, he sabotaged his leader and worked with the Fulani. And the Fulani, in the same tactic of deception, deceived him and later killed him and took over the Lorraine. And up to this day, what is the descendant of the man that took over? They are ruling a Lorraine. And that's why you see the Gambaris. You've heard about the current emir of Lorraine is Sulu Gambari. And that their tactic, the British now gave them that leeway. And because they are more organized, because when I say organized, yes, because they now use the religion, spreading that religion. But unfortunately, the coming of colonialism now helped a bit to stop, because there would have always been war. And when they wage a war, they force Islam on the people. Because when you educate people, I mean liberal education, you can make them you can make them to choose what they want. But in those days, leaders have always forced religion on their subjects, irrespective of however they might liberalize policies. They will always favor those that follow the religion of the leaders and the core north. And you will imagine how British, a Christian country, now helped propel the Fulanis to take over Nigeria. It was on commercial purposes. So look at, they left the north intact. They left the north intact, despite that the majority of the tribes you find in today's Nigeria are in the north. The bulk of the tribes in Nigeria is a country of about 300 and something tribes, or let's say, to be conservative, 300 tribes. But majority of the tribes are in the north. You can easily count the tribes in the eastern region. What about the western region? How many? Few of them. But the bulk of these tribes that make up the 300 are in the north. Yet the British left them to be intact and to be under the control of the Fulani. That was, and if you check the document signing the amalgamation, you see there were two Fulani, the Sultan of Sokoto and another Emir. There weren't even anyone from the Biafran territories, because the British did not like the Biafran territory because of the resistance. The Igbos resisted the British, and they never forget that. They resisted the British up to the 1930s. You can imagine. Many don't know that the greatest resistance the British ever met in Africa, in their quest or in their colonial experience, came from the Igbos. I don't know how many, I wrote it on my wall. The Ekumeku movement. Ekumeku movement rose from the Anioma Igbos. If you remember the Royal Niger Company, they had an office in Akasa, Asaba. And they always had attacks. The Igbos in Anioma area, they fought the British in guerrilla battle that spanned over 30 years. And the British never forget that. They hated the Igbos because the Igbos never wanted to be colonized, and they never hid that from the British. They kept fighting the British. Even when the Ekumeku movement ended, the likes of Azikiwe rose. The K.O. Mbadiwe, they've already gone to America and to London to study the ways of the white man, came back and continued to wage battle in a new style. This time, not like the Ekumekus, who were violent. This time, they started waging the battle with pen and intellect. And that was it. The British gave power to the Fulanis, and the Fulanis continued. Many of you have seen their statements. Even Tafawa Balewa, the first Prime Minister of Nigeria, saying that Nigeria is not a country that should stay together. It's just a mere, well, who said that? It was a mere geographical expression. Also, okay, that was Awolowo. That Nigerians cannot come together. And we still saw Amadou Bello, the statement he made. Was it credited to him that on the euphemism dipping the Quran in the sea? The followers have, they're aiming towards the Atlantic Ocean. They want to conquer these territories. But unfortunately, they've always met their match among the Igbos. But what they now do is they tried to use Nigeria to gain leverage. And that was what the British did for them, to help them to stop the Igbos, because the British saw in the Igbos a match. They saw their way of life, their organization, their tactics, their way of life, and their resistance to their system, and egalitarianism. You know, the equality of people, irrespective of the class. The Igbos have always had this system of anyone can rise to the top. And that is not what the British want. It is not part of their worldview. You've seen Queen Elizabeth, you've seen her children, the royal family. They are born to rule. There's a certain class, even you see it in this part of the world. Some people will look down on you, no matter anything. The royals, you know, it's like a thing of frenzy here. Even some of them are stupid and numbskulls and dullards, and they don't know anything. But as long as you come from the royal house, automatically you have the privilege and age among even those who are wiser than you. And that is the same with the Fulani. They share that philosophy. They share that aspect of culture. That cultural affinity is there between them and the British. And the British love that kind of thing. And I saw they empower them. And that's why you see they allow them, advise them all through the attempts at nationhood in Nigeria. From the time Nigeria gained independence, even before then, they made sure that they left the North intact under the watchful eyes and the leadership of the Fulanis, MPC, the Northern People's Congress. Northern People's Congress. Northern People's Congress. That was the party in the North. Northern People's Congress, as against nationalist parties like the NCNC and even the Action Group of Awolowo, and the MPC provided the Prime Minister. Then you can imagine the great Zikasa then became the ceremonial head. They understood the black man and the black man's mentality. So the British have always been their advisors. Even in the course of the Civil War, they advised them. Because one thing about the white man, he will put up a study. He may want to do something in the next 20 years. They will embark on a study and patience, put an understudy group, you know, follow it up. And you see that unlike our people, we are impatient. We want to act. We act on impulse. And we don't, this give and take. And because they've seen our attitude as in leadership, we are this Republican nature has advantage and disadvantages too. Advantage in the sense that we are easily driven to success, to doing something on an individual basis. But when it comes to collective action, it is tough. And that's why you see the Igbos will always pride themselves as the creators of democracy. Because democracy is not, our people will say, Ochichi onye kwuo uche ya. In our parlance or our tradition, everybody has a right to air his or her opinion. It is not like that in many cultures. It is not like that in and the Fulani culture. It is not like that in Islamic culture. It is not like that in the British culture. Forget about the deception. They talk about democracy and all those things. It is not like that. And that's why you see they can easily mobilize themselves with Allahu Akbar. They are fighting for Islam. That is why you see they adopt silent ingredients in the Islamic way of life and liturgy by fighting for Allah. Unlike the typical Christian or the Igbo who believe that it is his chi, it is his God that will fight for him. And you see why the Igbos easily embraced Christianity, modern day Christianity, irrespective of the fact that they've always believed in God. But Christianity had similarities with their culture in the sense that they believe in a supreme being who fights for them. Unlike the other religion, who will go and kill when you insult their God or their prophet. So these things has been the different perspectives to our ways of life and that of the Fulani. But the British has always backed them up in the sense that Nigeria was created solely for commercial purposes, and at the outbreak of the Civil War, they advised them. You see, they played smart. They put in a Christian from the Middle Belt, Gowon, and backed him up. So, and the Gowon was doing their bidding. So even all the informations and propagandas released by the Biafran authorities with the international community. The international community, why are you saying Gowon will go to conferences and grant interviews? Am I not a Christian? I'm a Christian. My people are Christians. So you see, notion of fighting against jihadists did not sell, and it wasn't resounding around the world. The only thing that even brought sympathy, and they started looking inwards into the massacre and the carnage that was going on in Biafran territory, were the malnourished children, those who were suffering kwashiorkor. And as such, the Fulani railroaded, like they did on the Hausas. They took charge of Nigeria. They deceived the rest of Nigeria with the advice of the British and took control. And every power in Nigeria, they've been behind every power in Nigeria. With the blanket religion of Islam, they've held the country on the jugular. They've held the country to ransom. From the end of the century, or even the just little mistake that happened. Should I say it's a mistake? It wasn't a mistake. It was a group of renegade soldiers. I should call it renegade soldiers, Nzogu and co, who went and they tried to change things. Whatever the debate or the argument is all about. Nzogu and co were renegades. They were these young 20-something-year-old military guys who didn't like what was going on because the independence ushered in new hopes, Nigeria, and everyone. Then things were okay. They wanted a country that would fulfill their dreams. And thus, they saw their dreams into oblivion. And they said, no, they can't. They saw affluence, corruption of the going on, the Okotiebos, they were just eating money, the Amadou Bellos, and their co. They struck. And they've always said it's an Igbo coup. It is not an Igbo coup. After all, the quartermaster general during that time, the quartermaster general was Igbo. Unaegbe, his name was Unaegbe, the quartermaster general. He was in charge of arms. They shot him because he wouldn't give them access to arms. They just shot him. He was Igbo. Nobody tried to talk about that. Go and check him. The quartermaster general during that coup was Igbo. And even one of the major planners was a Yoruba. He wrote a book now, Why We Struggle. But the Fulanis were looking for something to trigger. And so the killing of Amadou Bello and Tafawa Balewa, they now massacred. They massacred. You can imagine. More than 400 Eastern military officers were killed in a day. The massacre was heavy. And in just weeks, more than 30,000 people across the length and breadth of northern Nigeria, including Lagos, were shot. Chinua Achebe, you all know, despite the fact that he wrote a book, a bestseller, even at that time, that helped many people around the world to know about colonialism in sub-Saharan Africa. Things fell apart. They tried to kill him. They looked for him. He was working for, was it Radio Nigeria or Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation? Then, they looked for him to kill. And it was this renegade now caused. And the same Ojukwu and Ironsi and co. scuttled their efforts. The British knew all these things. That was why they brought us together with these people and made sure they were empowered, left them intact, gave them the levers of power and the machineries to stop our rise. And that's what we are seeing in this day. Like I said, this my broadcast is being tampered by Facebook. They don't want it to spread, but whatever happens, we'll keep supporting in this age of awakening and enlightenment, because it is very, very important. Europe had their time of Renaissance and Reformation, because and that is why they've always tried to stop the rise of Biafra, because we shall usher in a new age of enlightenment and reform, and Renaissance will sweep across the black race. They know that. They know that. And that's why they don't want us to rise. But we have to keep pushing until something cracks. That is what we are. The battle is what we are in today. And since then, you saw many of us were born after the Civil War, but we've researched a lot. Our parents were all born before the war, and many who witnessed the war are still alive. I've interviewed many of them. My father fought in the Civil War. My aunties were alive. Some of them were even raped, and they were victims. And all this. I am from Owerri. Owerri was a center. It was a center during the Nigerian Civil War. So all these things affected our people and affected the new generation. And we've seen that the march of Ottoman Danfodio and his descendants haven't stopped, but it is up to us to stop it. I've always challenged the Fulani. I mean, I have friends. My best friend in Nigeria, you may not believe it, is Fulani. I know he will be wondering, why do I bet? I've always been known as someone who stands on the light and truth. It is important, no matter whose ox is God. Even in Ireland, one of my best friends is Fulani. We always talk. I like him. There are still many good Fulanis. But the Nigerian Fulani elites are the worst. They are vultures. And why I think they are very bad. They had all the opportunities to fix Nigeria. And that is why when you are a wicked person, when you are not a good person, it will always come banging back at you. You may succeed initially when you just start off. It will look as if you'll be progressing, but at the end, you will fall. Because wickedness will never last long. It will not. And that is what happened in Nigeria. Look at Nigeria. Nigeria is a caricature of a country. However, you call yourself, I'm a Nigerian, I'm proud to. It's a caricature of a country. By mere fact of you saying, I'm Nigerian, people will just look at you somehow. There's no pride. There are countries you will get into just showing your passport as a Nigerian. The immigration officer will just take a closer look at you. Many people have been accused wrongly for the mere fact that they are Nigerian. They are Nigerians. And you see, there's this particular Fulani character. That is why you must not give them chance. You must not even listen. You must rebelliously never listen or give way. And that is deception. Deception. They've always flourished in deception. Because people are ignorant. That is why they are easily deceived. Some people wouldn't want to make use of their brain. They are easily deceived. These are the people that made use of the politeness of the Hausas and turned Hausas against their leaders, and at the end of the day, turned back and enslaved the Hausas. Look at the Hausas. They were already enslaved 100 years before the British came. And after the British conquered the Fulani in 1903, from then till now, are they still not enslaved? Generations onto generations onto generations. The Hausas are today, what are they? They are Muslims. Even they're the ones that fight the battle for Fulani. It's only few of them that want to change the status quo. But they're already Muslims. Aminu Kano of them was a Muslim. El Zaki is a Muslim. Instead, he has now moved to join the Shiites. He is the leader of the Shiites in Nigeria. And that's why, despite the fact that he's a Shiite, what is happening to him? They are dealing with him. If you read through the treatment of El Zaki in the hands of the Fulani, you will say, why this kind of hatred? Just look at demonstrations by Shiites. Demonstrations by Shiites, you see hundreds are shot, summarily shot. Just demonstration, ordinary demonstration. They are killed without mercy. To tell you that they see the average household as a slave. And that is what they want to extend. That was what the British gave them that leverage to come and rule us. The British knowing. I was arguing with someone and online. The person was saying that the Fulanis are sophisticated. I said, which kind of, what do you mean by, can you define sophistication? Sophisticated. Do you know? I said the Fulani never have any civilization. Yes, they conquered houses and built a caliphate. It never extended. even in their dealing with us, they've seen, irrespective of the fact that the British ensure that the levers of powers are in their hands, we still look down on them because we know on a very good day we are better than them. We are not looking to annex anybody's land. We are not looking to invade anybody or any people. You talk about civilization when you build sprawling culture, cultures that people will look at and emulate and find enticing and speak about and debate about. Like I said, they try to copy the Ottoman aspect of life and administration and tactics in spreading Islam. But the Ottomans built a lot. If you read their history, you will see that the Ottoman Empire sprawled. That even if you're up to this day, you see relics of the Ottoman Empire in the Balkans, in North Africa, and even in Europe. Go to Istanbul, you see the things they build. So that is what we are. That deception, they've tried that deception, but in this new age, we are now coming in closer contact with them. It is not working. It didn't work with Zeke. They never defeated Zeke and co. in political battle during the Civil War. If Russia and Great Britain were not involved, they're not much to Biafrans. Even the fact that the Yorubas even joined them. And this is what they've done. They deceived half of the Yorubas. I said it earlier on in my earlier analysis. The Landarines, they got their foot in at the collapse of the Oyo Empire through Shehu Alimi. And today, Ilorin is in their hands. Many Yorubas, most Yorubas, like you see, irrespective of the fact that there are flourishing Protestant churches driven by Yorubas. Most successful Yorubas are Muslims. You see Tinubu. Tinubu is a Muslim. And that's why you see they will always not respect the Yoruba Muslim. Because they believe that they are inferior to them. So brothers and sisters, the discussion about the Fulanis and their comparative studies, we can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. But Lord Lugard paved the way for them, having defeated them, beheading Atahiru, planting his brother Atahiru, defeating Kano and other states, and amalgamating Nigeria, giving them the levers of power in order to do their bidding and leaving their privileges intact. And since then, the British have always supported them, except that this time they've seen that the powers of the British has been whittled down. It's been whittled down. We've seen what is happening. The end, the powers of the British are down in this globalized era. It's no longer as they used to be strong. And in the Trump regime, we've seen how Trump has related with the British. And it's like putting a nail to the coffin. And that's why you see the Fulanis are desperate to cling on to power. They've embraced the Chinese at the moment. They want to cling on to power because they've seen that there's mass awakening across the length and breadth of their Nigeria. So they are sending people all across. They have, these tactics are old age tactics. And that's why ignorance, makes people to repeat the same mistakes that have always cost people dearly. And as a historian, I will be bringing you themes and topics that will help in this new age of mind awakening for our people. So it is important for us to understand that there's one style of Fulani pattern of conquest, and that is deception. If you allow yourself to be deceived, then they will get you. But if you say, look, I will not be deceived, then you prepare, because they are very stubborn people, very, very stubborn. They are ready to die. They are ready to battle to death because they are ingrained in Islam, and they believe that Islam, but the only problem, they are very hypocritical. Hypocrisy in the sense that they front Islam, but behind Islam, they're interested in power, in grabbing power. That is where we do our own mistake. We are interested in finance, but we neglect political authority, because when you have the political authority, then you can safeguard your finance and your economic prosperity. And that's why they will do anything to cling on to power. And another day, I'll take another topic. I thank you for listening to me. May God bless you. Have a good week. My name is Ukachukwu, or call me Ukachukwu Okorie. My pleasure.
That's